Welcome to Unpluggered. It's been a few weeks since we were here, obviously reflecting on the season that was. We saw another team that beat us in the finals go on and win the flag, and that's 11 of the last 16 times we've made finals where that has happened. Darren Parkin here with Nick Splitter and Aaron McGrath for Unpluggered. You may have noticed we have moved. We're now on Captivate under Sportscaster Media, so head to unplugged.captivate.fm and scroll down to the bottom of the page to join the mailing list. You can check out our socials and we'll have a link to that as well. And if you do join the mailing list, you can go into the draw to win a copy of a fantastic book by a man that we will have to speak to on the podcast at some point. It's the Saints 140-year history book written by Russell Holmesby. Strength Through Loyalty, Saints at Moorabbin and Beyond. And make sure, of course, you follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. The winners will be drawn a couple of Saturdays from now, Saturday the 14th of November. So check that one out. We will jump into the inner sanctum with Aaron Hamill, St Kilda assistant coach, defensive coach, who was a key part of Hub Life and part of the other build for the Saints in 2020. He'll join us very, very shortly. But boys, last time we spoke, it was in the build-up to a Richmond final that we knew was going to be a tall order. It's a final that I wish we could get again with a full complement of players available. Who knows? I mean, Richmond clearly the benchmark side. They proved that by coming from 4 goals down against Geelong to win the flag and with their performance against Port Adelaide in the prelim. But when you face a challenge like that, you want to face that challenge with all your ducks in a row and everything lined up to give yourself the best possible chance. We didn't get that, and it's not an excuse necessarily because Richmond would have been odds on to beat us anyway, but it would have been nice to get that opportunity with Ryder and with Carlisle and with Long and with Gresham. And obviously we clearly got stitched up at the tribunal a little bit as well. But Nick, your summation of that, I mean, we were denied a goal on the halftime siren, so that brings it back to a 4-goal loss. We hit the post 3 times in the game, and we missed some sitters as well, and we're only 2.5 goals down early in the last quarter. So as much as we were outplayed, we weren't without a chance.
We were in it for a lot of the game, and I don't think we were probably outclassed more than anything. I don't think we were outworked. You could tell they were having a crack, and they went in really hard. But, Richmond are now a 3-time premiership team in the last 4 years. Big bodies. They know exactly what they're doing. They've got their game style down pat. They know where their guys are going to be at any given time. They know exactly what they're meant to do, and they just went out and did it. We mucked around a little bit. We missed some shots at goal that we should have kicked. And like you said, a few of those guys playing, Ryder, Carlisle, Long, etc. Maybe the result is, if not different, then a little bit closer. I didn't think we deserved to lose by 5 goals. I thought it was more a 2 to 3 goal difference, except for a few minutes towards the end. But look, it was a disappointing loss, but understandable for a number of reasons, and at the back end of a really promising development year.
I think it's safe to say that if you're going to be knocked out by someone in the finals, if it's the team who goes on to win the whole thing, you go, look, okay, we've come up against the best team. That happens, and yeah, we can only look to next year and go, okay, that's the team we have to beat. They are the benchmark. What did we do good against them? We beat them early in the year. We know we can beat them. So it's just a matter of going, okay, well, that's the game plan we have to find. How do we beat that plan? Because that beats the rest of the league as well. So we take things out of that match for sure. So as Nick said, so many opportunities. It's just the inexperience. I mean, you can't go against a team that what they had for the last 4 years now and sort of go, oh, we should just, it's never going to be an easy task.
Yeah, in the last 50 years of St Kilda's finals appearances, we lost to the eventual premier in 70, 71, 72, 73, 97, 04, 05, 08, 09, 10 and 20. So our only finals appearances where that didn't happen were 91 and 92, 98, 2006 and 2011. So it's the only finals appearances we've had in the last 50 years, or effectively, apart from 68, since our premiership in 66, where that hasn't happened. So, yeah, I guess we are. The key is if you are another side or you're listening to this podcast, if you beat us in a final, it's a pretty good sign that you're going to go on and do something fairly special. But one day the wheel will turn back our way. But look, we played what is the first and who knows for how long, the only final played at Metricon Stadium. In the Gold Coast will qualify eventually, but we're a part of that. And clearly, the Gabba would have been perhaps a better venue for us. But, I mean, Richmond showed all through the finals that they found ways to win from any position under any circumstances. And I sense they would have done that against us regardless. They always found a goal when they needed to. They were accurate when they needed to be. They won clearances when they needed to. That they are the benchmark side in the competition. But they're a benchmark side that we had periods of the game where we controlled. So it's a case of where do we turn that into something a little bit more consistent and something that can really challenge not just them, but doesn't lead us to drop games against Melbourne and against Fremantle and against North Melbourne that cost us a position in the top four and ultimately cost us a chance. So that's where it's at. But we'll pull all of that apart now with our special guest on the program, Aaron Hamill.
And still rolling. It's getting better. It's getting better. And St Kilda, they're back. The Saints are back in the finals. And what about Geary? He played in that one in 2011. He's been there since 2008. He's done the hard yards.
Aaron Hamill joined us on the podcast just prior to round two, St Kilda's first game back from the isolation period first time around. That was at Marvel Stadium against the Western Bulldogs. It was a few weeks later that we would leave Victoria and not play there again for the remainder of the season. Spent over 100 days in hubs, and Aaron Hamill was there every step of the way with the Saints as they broke a 9-year finals drought. Sammy, congratulations on the year, and thanks very much for joining us.
No, pleasure, guys. It's a lot's happened since round two, hasn't it? Since we last spoke. As you mentioned, 108 days or something in the hub. But as you said, sort of 9 years since we've been fortunate enough to qualify, and that's our aim, just to keep turning up, keep qualifying, and then to, I guess, the progress that we made coming from 14th to almost playing off in a prelim, I guess, but sort of falling short by 30 odd points against the Tigers. But overall, quite disappointing to go out as you know in those circumstances, and there's facts and circumstances around it. But basically, we weren't good enough to get over the Tigers. But having said that, we felt we made some really good progress and heading in the right direction. But I guess underneath all that, we got a really good understanding. We've had a good solid review, what worked, what didn't, and where we need to get moving in a lot of areas. So really pleased with where we ended up. But we're certainly well aware that we've got a hell of a lot of work to do to not only qualify again, but mix it with the big boys.
How did you full stop the Richmond game? I mean, it's an interesting one from my point of view. I mean, no Ryder, no Carlisle, no Gresham, three pretty handy outs against a team like Richmond, given where we might have been able to exploit them. The more I think about the game, you sort of think, well, we were never really looked like winning it, but at the same time, we weren't that far away. We obviously got denied that goal on half-time. We effectively lost by 4.5 goals, somewhere around about that mark. Did the club take away from that thinking there's a gap that we've got to close, or was it we're actually not that far away, we missed some shots, we're in this?
Yeah, I think a bit of both. We realised that at our best we can mix it with anyone, and I feel that we certainly showed that. I mean, back-to-back Adelaide trips was a great one. We hadn't won over there for a decade, let alone doing it back-to-back, and we all know where Port finished. We know Adelaide had their challenges, but certainly at our best, and we had glimpses of it. We certainly didn't expect them to score from stoppage as they did. That hasn't really been Richmond's go until the finals. So, without getting probably too technical, 15-5 at a centre bounce, you're asking for trouble. So we certainly didn't. It's quite difficult to plan for that. Everyone knows how Richmond play with that chaos, and 70-odd% of their scores are from turnovers. So that's what you really go to work on. We know that they're such a powerful running side. They're really clean inside. They taught us a little bit of a lesson inside with how clean they were and taking on the tackler, etc. All the little things they do clearly well, and they've been a very, very good side for a number of years now. So everyone's chasing them. Everyone's well aware of that. But it's a matter of our personnel and the style of play that suits us, and we feel that with probably firming up the bookends now with Dougal and obviously Max at the other end, we've certainly got a fair bit of work to go in that area, but we feel we've certainly got something to kick to with Max and when Rowan and Paddy is sharing the reins there, and obviously Tim and the Smalls at the feet with Butler and Loney and Kent Hine down there. So Gresham was sorely missed, obviously, but look, Longy wasn't there, Carlisle, Ryder, Gresham, the list goes on, but we felt we had opportunities to put scoreboard pressure on. We didn't. They kicked 5-1 in the first, and then we were chasing tail all night. So we got beat up around stoppage. Centre bounce was put us under enormous pressure from a field position point of view, and then the rest was about even. But they showed us up in a couple of areas that we need to clean up.
Sammy, take us back to the time in the hub. We heard other clubs, the stories of players, coaches unhappy and discontent, as you'd expect, and out of other clubs, some negative moments and things that might have impacted their on-field performance. Didn't seem to be any sort of discontent from St Kilda and from our boys. Can you tell us what it was like in our camp?
Well, I think it was a really good opportunity for our younger guys. Well, the whole list, but our younger guys in particular to keep harnessing their connection that Rats has since he's come on board has driven really, really heavily. We were very well led from Simon Lethlean and Matt Finnis. So from day one, we realised the opportunity that we had, that we were lucky to do what we were able to do. No one signed up clearly for the 100 days, but the club made it as comfortable as what it possibly could, and we really used it just to harness sort of what we started, which was that connection, get to know each other. But it wasn't only just the players to coaches; it was all staff involved, all the players' partners, some of the staff partners and family were up there. So you couldn't buy that experience in terms of getting to know each other and the connection. You're living in each other's pockets, almost 24/7 up there. So it gave us an opportunity to accelerate what we knew, but it was perfect for our group. We were quite privileged to be up there and keeping the show running, really. And it's not only we kept pegging it back to we're representing hundreds of thousands of our Saints community and Saints family, and if that's the price that we had to pay to do it, then we were more than happy to do it. But there was no issues at all. We were well led on and off the field. The boys embraced it. They really enjoyed the experience. Some in sort of 5, 6, 10 years time will realise how fortunate they were to be up there playing. But we were under no illusions that we represented the masses of Saints fans, and that was our drive, and that was something that we all cherish, and we all were feeling for the Victorians back home. The Melburnians struggling away, and while we weren't able to run our own race up there, we still had strong protocols to live by. At least we could give our fans back home something to cling on to, whether that be 2 hours on the weekend. So that was probably a nutshell to how our group, and probably more importantly how our club handled it.
Yeah, obviously at the start of the season, the team will put a bunch of goals together to get what they want to achieve by the end of the season. Going into the hub, did these goals change a lot? Did the goalposts, I guess, kind of move a little bit, and thinking, okay, well, this is going to be a progressive thing along as the season goes to, okay, we'll achieve this, then we'll achieve this, then we'll achieve this, or was there something really set in stone? You're going, yep, no, we still believe we can do this, or and how much of that did we look at the end of the season and go, yep, that's the sort of area we got to in the end?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, if you look at, round one and we go all the way back there, it was probably a blessing in disguise what happened to round one. But this year we didn't want to give up the 4 points, and clearly we were gutted about how we lost, being 38 points up. So we had 10 weeks to review that game, so to speak. So those that have had much to do with Rats or interviewed Rats, he's pretty dogged with it all in terms of making sure that we cover all bases as we should. So that didn't sit well with him. It didn't sit well with the boys. It didn't sit well with the whole club. So it gave us a really good opportunity to review that game, almost minute by minute, in every line, every area, every individual. So that was, as long as we came out of that period, with learnings from it. We lost 4 games under 10 points as well. So we while we showed some growth, it's like every side, you still got to be able to take your learnings, particularly when you win, but clearly more so when you lose. And that Kangaroos game was something that if we could just get this component right to start with, then that'll give us a really good basis of to grow our game. The type of footy that we want to play, in that fast, exciting, attacking footy. So we had to tidy a fair few things up defensively with that. If we want to move the ball quick, then we've got a good understanding that it can leave us open a little bit in terms of the amount of space on the ground to defend. So that was a strong review. But moving forward, it was around about, if we can get our game right and get our system right more often than the opposition, we believe we have the talent, although we still want to keep adding to that. We have the talent and then the growth from the younger players that we saw a number of. We feel that we're in the mix, and that was our aim, just to keep improving. But when we do qualify, like what we did, we need to keep being able to generate that belief. And we competed strongly most of the time. That didn't really let us down there, and we felt we improved a lot. But it was all around. We didn't have a goal that we had to finish top 4, or of course you want to, and history tells you that you need to have a good crack at it. But our aim was just to play the best footy that we can, play that fast attacking brand of footy, but the nuances and the mechanics of the defence, we felt that we had to get right. So we felt we did a lot right, and we improved in that. But the scope, when you get to the pointy end, is our room for improvement.
If we're going to improve, there's certainly reasons. You look at guys like Clark, Caulfield, Patton, Marshall, those sorts of players. But 2 that I wanted to focus on in particular are different ends of the spectrum, Max King being one and Brad Hill being the other. You were obviously a leader when Nick Rewalt was coming through as a young key forward, and you sort of nursed him through. What's the next step for Max in his development? And Brad Hill, I think if we were going to play finals, if you looked at it at the start of the year, you'd assume that he'd finish top 6 in the BNF. He's finished 11th, 12th, something like that.
Yeah.
How do I guess we get the best out of him? I know it's often been spoken about that we perhaps weren't using him as much as we needed to. How do you see the next step for Max, but also for Brad to maximise his game?
Yeah, I think first of all with Max, it's it's bloody exciting what we're seeing, isn't it? I think every Saints fan around the country would love seeing the number 12 running around, but really how the number 12's getting it done. He didn't get everything right. He's so young. His development playing, arguably one of the hardest positions on the ground, and a lot of ball went to Max. So we probably got to be a bit more unpredictable in that. But a lot of footy was channeled through him. Now Max either marks the ball or he gets it to the ground, hence why we scored so many goals from 0 to 15 out. So he's a great target for us. He's only going to develop even more as he continues to have more pre-seasons and gets to understand his body even more, the game plan and himself and the belief. So he's got an enormous drive. He's self-driven. He's committed. He's such a pro at such a young age. Very, very similar to Nick. He's got that work ethic And what comes with that is just his belief. And as soon as he gets, a bit more muscle around him, we see tall foot, marking forwards. We saw Hawkins the year that he had, but the age that say Hawkins is to Max, we think his development is has been really good. He's doing fantastic work with Brendan Lade, the forwards coach, and Ruffy Jared's been really good for him, teaching him the tricks of the trade and when to use his body, and probably more so when to relax and then when to turn on a bit. So he's going to be in the game for a long, long time, Max. We hope that he's a 15-year player for the St Kilda Footy Club, and we can't be probably more happier than how we developed this year, but the old second-year blues, he doesn't want to be part of that. He's sussed the system out at a young age. He knows that he's not really interested in, and he's got a good understanding of not his, really his draft pick, but he wants to mirror that up with his work ethic that I saw with Nick at such a young age, and we've got a good understanding when Nick finished. So certainly not saying that he's going to be as decorated as Nick, but he's certainly on the right path, and we like what we're seeing. Brad, it's not easy at his age changing clubs. We felt that he while externally probably didn't have the impact that we would have liked. There were some games we wanted to get his hands more dirty, and no doubt about that. But the way that he's embraced the club, he's fantastic with the connection and the younger guys on and off field. He's only going to get better as he goes on. I think if you look at wingmen all over the comp this year, gone are the days where West Coast and Collingwood were getting 400 possessions, and Gaff's getting his 30 plus, or Phillips from Collingwood. The conditions up there were probably as what you see were a bit slippery. A lot of games, at 80% of our games were at night. A little bit slippery, a little bit dewy. We were averaging about 270 possessions. So the 25 plus, the 30 plus, but it was more his dynamic run, his decision making, his kicking clearly is A grade. So we want the ball in his hands more, and we feel that he's going to have a strong influence over our group with his experience for a number of years. So yeah, we feel that he'll be much better for the year that he's had and the seasons that he had. It's not easy coming into a new club and putting your feet under the desk straight away and getting used to it. It takes time, and both ways. How does our team sort of get Brad involved in the game more, and how can Hilly get himself involved? It takes time to gel.
Sammy, our goal kicking seemed to improve markedly this year from previous years. Can you put it down to one particular thing that changed, or was it part of the reason that we managed to get a whole lot more extra shots from that 10, 15 metre mark that you mentioned earlier? And if so, what was it in the game plan that changed to make that possible?
Yeah. What do you think it was, Nick? Do you reckon it was where we were having the shots from?
100%.
Yeah.
Something that I've looked at and analysed most of the year, to be honest. But obviously the easier shots are, the more likely you're going to kick them, and you'd rather have shots from 20 out directly in front than on the boundary. Yeah,
I think we were just under 60%, so a significant improvement from the year before, wasn't it? And the year before that. So, look, we felt that we attacked in the right areas for most of the year. It was also the ability to share the ball once we got that mark inside 50, and that secondary mark helps. But clearly, if we can funnel that footy in to Max quick or our tall targets, we average sort of just under 10 marks a game there. So that puts us in the top bracket as well. But our ground ball and pressure is pretty strong as well. So we weren't going as wide as much. Stats will tell us that. And in particular, the where we were having the shots, that 0 to 30 was a great result for us. So why we don't want to be so predictable all the time. We need to get that balance around when we go quick, and if it's Max one on one, we take that. Same as Tim, Rowan, Paddy, John O'Marsh when he's down there. We'll take that and we'll back our talent in, and then more importantly, we'll be able to get the ground level support where we need it.
So, which of the players do we think we need to build units for at Moorabbin and only allowed to take a bus to Marvel or to the airport? Who really took on the hub life best?
Yeah, well, we had a few bus trips, didn't we? It was a 3-hour bus trip down to Metricon, and then a 2-hour sort of little hop down to Brizzy. So we got a good understanding of what bus getting on a bus is like. At times, the coaches were able to sort of scoot down in a little minibus, so that was good. Depending on who was on the tunes, that was always made or break the trip. So generally, I took the reins there and didn't let too many down. But that was good fun. But yeah, look, I wouldn't say. I mean, there were times when it was a struggle. There was times when we'd still win, but we still had issues. Whether it was family back here for some or really sort of involved in a hub where the boys, particularly early days, where they couldn't get out and really do their own thing. So it's been well documented around teams that did struggle with it, and I think certain players have come out and said that they didn't cope. But we had really good support. We're really lucky. We have Tony Brown in our welfare space, who's just a gun in that area. Ben Robbins with our sports psych. And all our coaches are so diligent and thorough in what they do. So their relationship with the players is first and foremost. And then we had, I guess, the whole staff support. Supported by a medical team and whatnot. And High Performance did a great job. Our injuries, I guess, were significantly low, apart from I guess Hannibal and Webster's hamstring. So and then Gresham's back at the end. So we didn't have really any significant hiccups, but at times it was a battle, and I guess that's just sort of part and parcel where you're at. The 4-day breaks were solid and tested the boys out. Or tested everyone out, really, do what the boys do best. But I wouldn't say there was too many that significantly struggled with it. But by the end of it, the boys adapted well.
Sammy, what's the latest on Paddy Ryder and his injury, and any news on Jake Carla?
Paddy's going well. His operation was a success. It was quite a lengthy one, but he got through that well. He's well on his way to rehab now, and his rehab program that our High Performance will facilitate well with him. He's really diligent in how he goes about it. He's had a really good taste of finals footy now, and he's got a good understanding of his influence over the group and how important it is to us. So. We look forward to getting him back. He's not the 5-plussers aren't back till first week of Jan, so they've got a bit of time. But in saying that, he wants to make sure that he does his rehab right. He's in Melbourne now, so he's in good hands here. As far as Jake goes, and as far as I'm aware, there's a contract on the table there for Jake. He's a critical part for us. We know that he's a terrific defender for us. He's got a lot of attributes that, at his best, that we like. So I wouldn't have thought that'd be too far away.
And do we know of anyone else who's going to be possibly missing a little bit of pre-season, going in for anything to clean up, or is it all looking quite good at the moment? Real fit list, just those couple of niggles that we need to get over, and we get straight into it.
Yeah, pretty fit list. Obviously Gresh is coming back from his back, but all reports he's going really well. He's well and truly, into his middle, sort of coming to the end of his rehab program. So that'll be quite steady there with Jade. There'll be no hurry to get him moving straight away, but we got a bit of time there with Jade, and we just got to make sure it's a significant injury. So you've got to give it the respect that it deserves. And when he's right, he'll hit the track running. He's one that loves pre-season, Jade. So I'm sure he'll look forward to get back there running. but apart from that, we all got. I mean, they are quite significant, both Paddy and Jade. So that's probably enough for us to carry and get right. But the rest was a couple of little niggles that there's no real issues with. So we fingers crossed the boys come back well and fit and hungry and committed again, and away we go.
Sammy, I think Jack Steele kind of breakout last season and obviously took another step forward this season in terms of the way that he handled himself on the field, but also it seemed like off the field as well, obviously, awards nights and that sort of stuff. Do you get the sense that he's ready to take on more of a leadership capacity next season? I think a lot of the fan base was surprised that he wasn't in the leadership group coming into this season.
Yeah, it's the sense I get. It is. It's. I mean, it's just a really good story with Jack. I mean, what you see is what you get with him. He's such a humble, driven bloke that he's outstanding in what he does. Clearly on field, we know how good he is on field and what he does and the steps that he's taken this year. Third in the Brownlow, best and fairest All Australian. He had an outstanding year. Which is, I guess, what you guys saw. But he really took some big steps with his development in leadership. He was in the meetings often. He really he leads by action and very similar mould to, say, Robert Harvey and the greats that I played with. Lenny Hayes and even your sort of Stephen Kernahan and Craig Bradley, those types. And he's the feeling I get that he enjoys his leadership role. He's got an understanding of the responsibility with it. But having said that, Jaron Geary, he's done an outstanding job, and he did a terrific job this year. Just the roles that you could see that he was playing has probably given everyone a good understanding around the character of the guy and what he's prepared to do for the footy club. So while there's others that are coming through with certainly leadership qualities, and Dougal's another one of them that Jack, we felt took some really big steps in that area, and it's something that he'll only get better at. Whether or not he wants to aspire to be a captain, I don't know. That's something Jack would have to comment on. But I get the feeling that he's certainly he's embraced the leadership role, and he knows that the responsibility that he has. Yeah.
Now, how do we look at next year? Do we put this year down as a benchmark and think, okay, we know what we can achieve. This is where we think we should now be able to be at that sort of level and jump from there, kind of thing? Do we look at other sort of players and go, okay, that's the player who's going to take us to that next level again after this season? Is there anyone we look at particularly to go, yeah, okay, they're the next ones we're going to step up after, as Nick was just saying, with Jack Steele lifting so much this season? Is there someone else who's next, we think, going to do that?
Well, the majority of our growth or our, I guess the level of our performance is always going to come from growth within. I mean, you can only inject so many per year, and even then they can be quite young and immature, I guess, physically. So the expectation shouldn't sit on those shoulders. It's certainly the growth within. We expect, clearly Nick Caulfield, who had a great year, 5th in the BNF. We expect him to keep getting better. In my opinion, working closely with him this year with the backs, was that he's just scratched the surface around where he's going to end up in 3, 5, 10 years time. Whether that's more time in the midfield, who knows? But he's just scratched the surface. We need him to get better. We need him to come back really dog hungry and wanting to improve, along with Long and Patton and Clark. If he wants to take that next step into the midfield, then he's got a good understanding of what he needs to do to mix it with those guys. So certainly the growth, we feel Wilkie's going to get better, Howard's going to get better. Up the other end, we know that Max is going to keep improving. Tim's going to hold his end of the bargain up, and clearly the dynamic within the midfield is something that we need to get right. The mix in there, we've got some really experienced heads. and they're only going to get better the more that they play with each other, you know, in terms of the minutes that they get into each other and got a good understanding. So, I definitely feel that it's the growth within. Everyone needs to lift and perform if we want to not only just qualify, but we need to get moving in all the right directions, in the right direction with every phase of our game. You know, our contest needs to get better, our hands in tight, our ability to defend quicker and stronger for longer, and our offense can take. You know, we need to fine tune that a bit. So all phases of the game, we need to get moving, because just because we played in the finals this year doesn't give us any right at all for 2021. We got to do the hard work. We got a lot of. I guess we got a lot of from out of our review. We've got some themes that we need to get working on, and the sooner we can get back, we get the boys back. Sort of the first of 4 years, 5th and 6th of December. I'm not too far off that, so we'll get them back. We'll train them up well. They'll be in their own habitat, so to speak, and we'll go from there. But it's exciting. The Saints supporters that I speak to are really looking forward to 2021, and you know, the last thing that we want to do is regress and sort of be a flash in the pan side. We've worked too hard for that to happen, but again, we've got to earn the right to qualify and earn the right to win games of footy.
We'll let you go shortly, mate. I apologise for keeping you so long, but last one from me. Paddy McCartan, as someone who's been through their fair share of footy injuries, how do you feel on a potential return for Paddy? And as someone who's both played footy and coached this man in particular, any words for Shane Savage?
Shane Savage in what regard?
Well, I think Rats kind of announced after the game against Richmond that he was probably going to move on, and there was some interest from some other clubs. And I guess from a club perspective, what we'd like to say to Shane for his service.
Yeah, that's news to me. I haven't heard that, mate. So I probably can't.
Interesting.
Yeah, I probably can't comment on that. I'll have to listen to Rats' press conference. That's news to me, and that'll come as a surprise, given the conversations that we've had. But I'll leave that one alone. Paddy's, Paddy's he's a terrific young man, and I know I've been involved with him, I guess, clearly the last 5 years, but in more particular the last 6 months, and seen him close up and seen how committed he is. You know, he looks fit, he's happy, he's healthy, he's really committed to getting the best out of himself and to keep putting his case forward, whether that's in conversations with St Kilda Footy Club, whether or not it's, you know, with other clubs. I'm sure he's working through that, but my conversations with him is that'll all take place in the next week or so, a couple of weeks apparently. So whether that is at a footy club, we just at the Saints, or whether it's another club, who knows? I hope it's with the footy club. If not, he'll given the character of the guy and how committed he is to get the best out of himself, I'm sure he'll bob up somewhere and we'll all look on. But no, we wish him well, Paddy. Whether it's again with us or someone else, we're not quite sure yet. But let's hope that he gets a good run with it, because he's one that's got a heap of talent. Early days he was playing some good footy for the Saints. So we'll see where that one lands.
Sammy, we've always been on the hunt for sponsors on this program. I can tell you Vodafone won't be one of them. They've been a bit of a pain in the backside over the course of the evening. But we've stretched the relationship pretty far tonight. We appreciate you sticking with us for as long as you have, and particularly when you're on leave and on a public holiday as well. So thank you very much. Well done on the year. I think a lot to be proud of, a lot to build on, and thanks for giving us some insights from the inner sanctum.
Thanks, Parker. So when you're off air, mate, we all... one of your Chris Kringles, mate, will be a new modem. So let me know where I can contribute to that, boys. And we'll
just another mouse for the wheel will be enough. He just took a break. Had to give him some more cheese. He's back on the bike, but he'll be busy for a while. But thank you, mate, and good luck for 2021.
Pleasure, boys. Anytime. Thanks for having me again.
Aaron Hamill joining us there. We'll continue our season review. Great to get the insights from him. And I guess a thought on McCartan before we look at some of that. I know he spoke on it a little bit, Nick, and I would never be one. People are in control of what they want to do, and Paddy McCartan, if he gets the medical all clear and firmly believes that he still has something to give at AFL football, and I would never be one to stand in his way. People should pursue whatever they want to pursue. But the one thing that I can never escape when I think about the Paddy McCartan situation is no matter how healthy he may be, no matter how well he may feel, football is a ballistic contact sport. And I always think of situations like the Jordan Lewis concussion at Docklands against the Bulldogs, Jonathan Brown's head clashes at the Gabba late in his career. Simply by playing football, there is a chance that something like that can happen to you. It's just the nature of the game. So I'm just fearful for what happens to Paddy if he just cops something like that one more time, or 20 years from now, 30 years from now, if he starts to develop situations, mentally and the like. So would never begrudge him that opportunity, but I'm deeply, deeply concerned, I guess, by the prospect of Paddy playing AFL football.
Yeah, and that's the worry, isn't it? I mean, like you said, you'd never begrudge a guy following his dream, and quite clearly, and for all the flack that he copped earlier in his career when people said that he wasn't having a crack and he might be lazy or not giving in the required effort, this guy clearly, dearly wants to play AFL football and has always wanted that, and this is his dream. So you can't expect to just take that away in the guy to just live happily ever after. I mean, he may live happily ever after, and fingers crossed that's what we all want for him. And if he gets to play AFL footy again, and hopefully, for his sake, that's what he wants to do, and hopefully he gets to do that. But like you said, that concern is the long-term issues that may occur from another head clash. He might not even need another head clash for some of those things to happen. We just don't know enough about head injury and brain injury. And we saw what happened to Cozzy, and Cozzy, it effectively ruined his career, even though he went on to play for a fair period of time after that. He was never the same after that head clash. We've seen it with a number of players, and we've seen it with guys at the end of their career, and we've felt it deeply. This time last year with Spud Frawley, and the last thing I think that we'd all want to see is another occurrence of football head clash and brain injury having long-term emotional, mental impact and anguish on a guy that, all we want to see is be happy.
Yeah, and the other side you got to look at it now too is, Paddy can come up and get all the reports he wants and everything and go, yeah, I'm good to go. A team then needs to go, okay, we're going to give you a chance. So whether we are going to have a look at him, giving him that opportunity or something, it's going to be a factor that the teams will want to do it at the minimal risk factor possible. So it's basically going to be saying to him, look, if you're playing, it's going to be on a minimal contract. It's going to be, you might even only be backup. So he's possibly going to be stuck playing VFL or something as well. So or in the new league that's just been formed. So it's a long path he's going to have to get through just to get back into playing again. But yeah, as you say, if he goes, everything is fine. He's got all the reports. He's got all that sort of stuff. Why wouldn't someone take that risk if they can get it for that minimal contract and minimal, just the minimal risk possible? He could come back and be an absolute star. You just don't know, but like whether we take it, I don't know. Do we have the position? Do we go, okay, look, it might be more of a backup thing and a bit of a, I guess, sentimental move at the same time, or does he go to a Sydney who are down and they add a little bit, need maybe another forward and go, all right, well, we're possibly not doing much next season, so let's give it a go. It's going to be a really interesting path for him.
Sydney and Carlton are the two that we hear a lot about. Obviously, his brother plays for the Swans and is a pretty good player. So they're the two that we sort of hear a little bit about. But It's going to be fascinating. Either way, we certainly wish him all the best. I know Cosy spoke pretty strongly about it on SEN a couple of weeks ago, but we put the full stop on the season, a season of a lot of progress. Obviously, there were plenty of players that took a step forward. Even though Marshall relinquished part of his ruck responsibilities, he continued to develop as a player. Caulfield, terrific. Patton, terrific. Clark, terrific. Butler, outstanding. Howard, outstanding. They finished top 3 in the BNF, both of those guys. Jones was really big for us. Ryder was really big for us as well. I think on the two sides of the coin for me, that if you're looking at potential improvement, but at the same time, if you wanted to look at critically, the guys that sort of stood out to me, as good as it was to see Clark and Caulfield and Patton finish top 10 in the best and fairest, if you had said at the start of the year that Billings would finish 11th, Hill would finish 12th, and Membry would finish 14th, you would have thought we might struggle. They only missed one game between them, those three players. So I think if we're looking for the best possible outcome for St Kilda, we need those three players to finish in the top 10 in our best and fairest. Membry for the support he plays around King, but Hill and Billings for their ball use. Aaron Hamill spoke a little bit about the way the game was played in Queensland with those wingmen and those types of players perhaps being stifled a little bit by the conditions. But if we get back to playing at Marvel on a regular basis next year, and touch wood, the COVID situation suggests that's likely, then hopefully we see the best of those guys using their outside abilities to carry us forward. But H, what was your main takeaway on the year? We had a lot of guys that took us forward, and certainly guys that can help us improve. You'd imagine Max only gets better.
Yeah, generally you put your most improved down to one player, but I'd almost put that core back group as their most improved. The unit together just works so well, and that's only going to get better and better and better as they play with each other week in, week out. Basically, what's our old? Jay Carlisle would have been our oldest defender. The rest, absolutely no experience between them when you look at it at the core numbers. They're only a few years into their careers each. So just looking at how they've worked together, how they've built this back group, it's just looking ahead going, this group is going to be fantastic if we keep it together. But in saying that, you build from there and then you move forward. The midfield's picked up. They got stronger, they're getting more of the ball, they're using it better again after last season. The usage is getting better, and our forward line's only getting stronger again as well. So it's just looking forward to next season. We got excited going into 2020. Well, 2021, and we're sort of sitting here again and going, this is going to get even more exciting. I think it's get another year where our injury list keeps quite low. We're always going to have an injury here and there, but yeah, you can't not sit there and go, this group is going to do something special one day.
I mean, it's one of those things where everything. I mean, footy's not linear, right? We can sit here and say we expect that these kids are going to take another step forward and they're going to be even better next year, and ideally that's what we all want to see. But we know it doesn't. It never works as simply as that, especially at St Kilda. Nothing is ever simple. Nothing is ever easy, and we're never, we're never just that little bit lucky enough to take that next step really well. But you look at those kids, and not only are they, really good footballers, but they seem like really good human beings. They seem like really good trainers. They seem like they have really good work ethic and the want to get better. And then you add in who I think is really the X factor of this footy club in Brett Ratton, and his ability to bring this group together. And we spoke to Sammy about the fact that the guys seemed so close, and there was not even a whisper of discontent up in the hub in Noosa compared to other clubs especially. But these kids and this group as a whole looks so gelled and looks so together that it's hard to see how the kids aren't going to take that next step. And like you guys mentioned, King, Clark, Caulfield, Patton, Wilkie is not old. Wilkie's essentially a kid. He's 24. And some of these other guys, Butler is also really young. Brad Hill, he's not old. He's still got 4 or 5 good years of footy left, as do a lot of our list. So there's a lot of improvement still to come. And I think, we were competitive in a lot of our games, even if we didn't ultimately win them. You look at round 1, North Melbourne, round 6, Fremantle, round 14, Melbourne. There are only probably 2 games all year that we weren't competitive. And those 2 games are not that we didn't have a crack. It's just that we weren't good enough against Collingwood and Geelong, and potentially to a point West Coast. But, some of these games that we dropped, we should have won. And then you look at Brisbane, we should have beaten Brisbane. The development, that next step is not that far away. And if you look at it critically, I think it's the mental aspect more than anything, the ability to stand up to pressure. And I think those are the things that come with time and age and maturity and strength, not so much the skill factor, which we know has already improved incredibly. And I think it's that mental aspect that's the next step for us. And I think with guys like Brett Ratton and Simon Lethlean and Matt Finnis at the helm of the club, and then the next tier down with Brendan Lade and Aaron Hamill and guys that have done it and been leaders and won finals. And, we're in a very good position to take that next step next year.
I look at the not so much the votes from the semi-final, but we might see what it all means in the best and fairest for us anyway. And H, it's not going to differ too much from what the club did. I think Jack Steele won the club best and fairest by a mile, almost a double job on the those that came second and third in Howard and Butler. And he's done very similar with ours as well. I think a 54 vote victory over Zach Jones that came second.
Yep. And we'll calculate earlier if second, third, and fourth put their votes together. Jack still beaten by a vote. It was just an out and out standout season. But all these players that he has beaten, they all supported him all season. It's not that they didn't do the job. Just he stood out so high as the leader of the team, as basically showing the way that this is where the club's going. This is what we want to do. He wants to lead the club and say, this is where I want to be. So basically, as I say, Jack's won it on 87 votes. Zach Jones in second on 33. Marshall 27 for top 3. Then we've gone down to Butler, Billings, Clark, Gresham, Ryder, Hill, and Caulfield as our top 10. So, as you say, very similar to what the actual club votes were. So basically, I think it seemed to have panned out, as you say, with the votes of being the same sort of thing. It made sense as what the top 10 best players were. Maybe Howard, I think, could have snuck in a few more here and there. It's just the different voting system that makes a bit of a difference at times. So the players not getting votes for games where they were pretty good, and but overall, we have an absolute runaway winner.
Also, probably worth part of the reflection on the year, Nick, discussing best wins, worst losses. We sort of mentioned it in conversation a little bit, but of all of them, the elimination final was the one that probably felt the best. But I think our best win, even though we beat the reigning premiers, was Port Adelaide. Just the nature of that victory was outstanding. And did any loss in particular stand out? The two that hurt the most, even lost, and the West Coast loss, because the West Coast loss looked like it was going to cost us a spot in the finals, and we had a chance to seal that game with about 8 minutes to go. But the Melbourne loss was pretty hard to take well.
Yeah, I think my 3 best wins, I think, were Port Adelaide, same as you. I think that Port game really showed the rest of the AFL that we were legitimate, and it showed the boys, it showed our own team, our young team, that they were legitimate and they could compete. And Port were top of the ladder. They were unbeaten to that stage, I think, or maybe just one loss by round 8, and we rolled them on their own turf, and that was a huge win for our consciousness, I think. Obviously, the final against the Bulldogs was a massive win, our first final win in a decade. But the other one, it turned out to be a relatively easy win. But that round 18 clash against the Giants, again, was really the full stop on our season. We needed to win that. We needed to win it well. It really put an exclamation mark on the season. And, you know, even in some of our other wins, we played really well, but we hadn't put a team away, and we hadn't put a team away for a long time. And it was just really nice to see, you know, it's been a long season, and to really rubber stamp our place in the finals. That Giants win was hugely important. Worst losses, I mean, where do you start? There was that round 1 debacle against North Melbourne, 38 points down. Sammy alluded to it earlier, that it may have been a blessing in disguise. I don't know. You never want to lose a game of footy, and especially after being 6 goals up. But that round 6 game against Fremantle was the one for me. It was just such a demoralising win. We played some really good footy up to that point. You know, we had a couple of really good wins, and for us to play like we did in the first quarter against Fremantle and then just bottle it for the rest of the game, and that last quarter was just a debacle. And there's not much more I want to say about it because I want to forget it, but I'm not sure I'll forget it for a while. I think it'll always be in the back of my mind whenever we're 5 or 6 goals up early in a game, that it's never quite over. But I think that was the year's worst loss for me. What, H? Do you agree?
As you're saying, the round 1 game was a bit of a blessing in disguise. The club were actually calling the round 6 game almost a wake-up call. And then I'd go as far as saying our best win, I'd almost combined round 7 and round 8 in Adelaide together as our best win. That 2 week, well, not 2 week period, it was like, 5 days or 6 days or whatever it was. 2 wins in Adelaide, something we hadn't done for a long time. Combine those together, that is our absolute best part of the season, looking back at it. I mean, if we'd beaten Adelaide at the Gold Coast and then gone to Port and beaten Port down there, I mean, Port would still be a great win, but to do it twice as we did, it was massive. Adelaide weren't great, but it's a huge thing that sort of gave the team a bit of kick along, going, hey, have a look at this. We're achieving things we haven't done for a long, long time now.
Yeah, that was the crossroad moment, I think. We were 3-3, horrible loss to Freo. I remember sort of having an emotional tweet after that game against Fremantle, thinking our season was cooked, just because of the nature of the loss. It was our first week in the hub, so you're like, oh, they're going to be away from home for months. They just had a complete implosion on field. They're going to a city where they never win. I thought it was a disaster, but a mature win against Adelaide where the umpiring was extraordinary, and then obviously the win over Port Adelaide was brilliant, and they backed that up by flogging Sydney, and then had the hard-fought win over the Gold Coast. So yeah, that month really did show maturity, I think, as the standout. H. So I think that combined fortnight, and it was a 5-day break too, so it was 2 games in 6 days, if you will. That really did turn the tide for us. Before we get to some of our listener questions, I guess we look at what's happening next. And obviously this podcast is recorded and then edited up, and in the hours in between, these things can change. We know that we put an offer to Brad Crouch and lodged the paperwork. The Crows had 72 hours to respond to that. That should run out in the next probably 24 hours from this recording. Brad Crouch, at the time of this recording, has asked or urged Adelaide to accept the offer so he can leave as a free agent so it doesn't get messy. And my gut feel is that it might go that way, because if they decide to match the offer and we walk away, they have to keep him or they have to pay him, one or the other. So you think at the end of the day they still want him gone. I thought they were dudded a little bit, Adelaide, in compensation. They were never going to get picked through, but I thought 23 was a bit harsh. But hopefully they take that and we don't have to pay anything to get Crouch over.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but the other alternative is that he refuses to sign this matched contract at Adelaide and goes into the draft pool, right? As an uncontracted player. So which still, you know, this, even if they match and we walk away from the trade table, doesn't mean that it's necessarily over, but it does make it a bit harder.
It does. He would have to nominate probably for the pre-season draft only, and then we would have a handful of clubs ahead of us, and we would have to hope that and generally players don't take players, or clubs don't take players that have committed elsewhere. So I sense he'd probably get to us anyway, but unless other clubs spoke to his manager and said, we'll pay you exactly what St Kilda's paying you if you come to us, and that might twist his arm. But hopefully it goes smoothly. McKernan's a good backup option. I sort of consider that to be an upgrade on an insurance policy, and that our current insurance policy, we pay a premium and we get Jonathan Marsh. We're paying effectively the same premium and getting Sean McKernan. And with all due respect to Marsh, McKernan's played 80 or 90 games at the AFL level, has had probably more influential games at AFL level. So you kind of paint that as the Richmond final example where Ryder doesn't play, McKernan comes in instead of Marsh. That's effectively what you're looking at there. Looks likely we'll get Jack Higgins, who was a lifelong Saints fan, but all the Ben Brown stuff sort of died down. He'll go to Melbourne, but that's kind of where it's looking for us in the off-season. It'll be reasonably busy, but James Gallagher's made no secret of the fact that we won't be quite as busy as we were last year. And I'm hoping that's because they're saving some coin to go after one Ben King in 12 months' time.
That's the hope, isn't it? I mean, there's all this talk about Adam Treloar, but that seems to be coming from the fan base and not from the club. You know, I get the feeling that we're just not interested, or that it's not that we're not interested in him as a player. It's that because we have other plans. And like you said, I hope that one of those plans is Ben King in another year or so, because you know the idea of Max and Ben either bookending the field or having one at full forward and one at centre half forward is just, I mean, it's mouthwatering, isn't it? That potential opportunity if that ever comes. But you're right about McKernan. I think that if you had to choose a guy to come in and play backup ruck and backup forward, if you had to choose between Sean McKernan and Jono Marsh, I mean, Marsh is a good, honest battler and he put the work in when he was required. But if you had to choose the better footballer, I mean, Sean McKernan seems a more natural footballer than Jono Marsh, and I think I'd prefer him coming out of the goal square or in the centre square than Jono Marsh. So for me, like you said, it's a good insurance policy. Hopefully, he never has to play a game, and he's a bit of the Sam Rowe kind of guy. Maybe he comes in for a game at the end of the year if nothing to gain. But hopefully we're fine with Ryder and Marshall and some other guys pinch hitting if those guys need a rest. But yeah, it's totally an insurance policy.
Yeah, I'd be sad to see Marsh go. His determination, it's just brilliant. But if his skill was as big as his determination is in the game, he'd be a brilliant footballer. It just doesn't have that same skill to match. I mean, he did some really, really nice things during the season. A couple of, I think it was against, I'm trying to remember which game it was against, but he won the ball 3 times in the forward line when he never should have got the ball. He threw himself in there, got it out to our back out to our advantage again, that sort of thing. He showed he could do it, but it just wasn't. It's just not consistent enough. That's basically his only problem. So McKernan, as you're saying, yeah, shown a few things. Reserves, hopefully actually play next year. So it'd be good to get them, having the players fit, ready to come in if we need them. But otherwise, yeah, I don't see much more need for any other positions in insurance unless someone does come along. I don't think Treloar's not really something we're going to look at. I think mainly because of price. So yeah, he's not going to be pushing anyone out into the reserve system, I don't think. So yeah, that's. I mean, they say we're not going to be as busy as last year. I don't know if we could ever be as busy as last year again. So yeah, we'll go into do a few bits and pieces, fill a couple of gaps, and move on.
I mean, we'll try and get hopefully one of the club insiders again, like we did last season, after the trade period is over, and we can all take a breath and kind of restock, and hopefully you can get some insight into what this period is like for those guys. But I've got a question for both of you guys. I mean, I don't know if it was just me. It seemed to be all over social media, but I'm sure I heard it the night of the Richmond loss. Brett Ratton in that press conference saying that Shane Savage will move on, and that he's had some interest from some other clubs. What's your take on Sammy saying that he hadn't heard that, and what do you reckon's happening with Shane Savage?
Well, I must admit, I was watching that presser. I had a couple of drinks at the time. I don't remember that definitively, but I didn't see all of the press conference. But it does seem logical with the emergence of those young defenders, but whether the fact that Webster and Robertson have been linked elsewhere means they want to keep some experience, and they might have changed their thinking on that. But I guess the issue is you don't want to do, you don't want to squeeze out too many of your depth players. Like we're clearly, Dunstan got injured and couldn't get back in. He'll go back to South Australia. Jack Loney's been offered a longer contract by the Bulldogs than what the Saints are offering him. Doesn't mean he'll go, but there's all that Carlisle speculation, and as we said, Webster as well. I wouldn't want to get rid of all of those options in the event that you get a bad run of injury. Savage played well in the 2 games he played, so I'd like to hang on to him. Carlisle would be ideal to hang on to. Tom Lynch had 53 shots a goal against us in the semi. It would have been good to have another defender there for his experience. So, yeah, I wouldn't want to clear out all of the depth options, and Savage I still think has a role. So maybe it was a case of that was in the plans, but then with the likes of Webster and Robertson potentially looking elsewhere, they thought, well, we can't clear the decks too much.
Yeah, well, the one other question is, do we know the list size as yet?
No.
That could be as simple as we don't know the list size and we don't know who we're going to be picking up in the free agency or trade period or that sort of thing, and saying, okay, well, he may not be back. So...
Look, that's by the way, that's a disgrace. Just quietly, that the trade period starts officially on the Wednesday, and clubs don't know how big their lists are going to be. Which is a disgrace. But anyway.
It seems a bit strange. I don't know. The number 35 has been thrown around quite a bit, and it's quite a significant cut.
Yeah, I'm thinking 38, down from 44, with I think no rookies, I believe.
Yeah. Which is about as similar to what it normally is anyway when you look at it. It's
normally 40 plus 4, now to be 38, I think. Yeah.
So that's not as huge a cut as the 35 that's been thrown around a fair bit. But if it did end up being that sort of low, then you're sort of thinking, okay, well, they're saying, look, you're probably going to be one of those we have to cut, and then we don't know what's going to happen from there on. So the words he used exactly, I still don't fully know what he was saying, as we can say, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see what actually does happen.
We'll take a look at some of our listener questions before we bid farewell on this episode. Hopefully a few more summer specials, as we said. But at St John 56, does our list improve to a regular Final Four chance with the speculated ins versus the speculated outs? It's always a combination of the ins plus the natural improvement. You need to have at least a quarter of your list get better. We should expect that. As Nick said, it's not linear, but we should expect, Clark, Caulfield, King, Patton, Marshall, etc., to continue to take steps forward as players. So, look, we're probably 2 games out of the top 4. Yeah, I'd be disappointed if we weren't playing finals regularly, but then we just hope we can turn that into it. Cozy 7 asked a question on McCartan, which we sort of touched on a little bit before. St Kilda FC, LFC, says, will Hunter Clark play full-time in the midfield in 2021, boys? Your thoughts? It seems a natural progression.
I don't think it'll be full-time.
Yeah, sorry, Ash. I was just going to say it does seem the natural progression, but I agree. I don't think we'll see it full-time. I think he showed at half-back how damaging he can be. He reads the play really well. He was able to intercept mark. He also, I think, improved his strength and his ability to put his body and his head over the ball. And he just fit the back sticks really nicely. I think he'll spend more time in the middle. But I think we've also got guys like Jack Bytel and Ryan Burns kind of waiting in the wings for some midfield time too. I think Bytel is a natural midfielder. I think Clark is too, but they're very different, but I think Clark kind of fit what we needed out of that half-back role really well this season.
I can see him using a lot of the ball out of the midfield, but that's after he gets the ball at the defensive 50 and just glides through to the opposition like he does. So, yeah, he'll get the ball in the middle, but it won't be from that position.
And a couple of others that we've sort of addressed. Adam Goldman says, what are our plans for getting the ball in Hill's hands? Hopefully Aaron Hamill addressed that enough earlier when we sort of mentioned it. Chucky 94 says, which players do we expect to take big steps forward next season? I think we sort of rattled off a few of those before. Damo Jones Z says, what's the update on Bytel and the young guys? Where are they at in regards to being permanent fixtures in the team? With the Paddy Rowan experience working so well, is there a focus on developing another ruckman? I know it's more than one. Got excited Tuesday, mate. That's fine. Sam Alabakis is obviously a young ruckman, but McKernan would be one of those. And Nick, it's probably hard to go past Bytel's debut game, a game where we got a touch-up, but he was probably our best player against Geelong. And that performance really suggested that he's got a pretty good future.
It really whets the appetite, doesn't it? Because he was phenomenal against Geelong in a game where, like you said, we got pummeled in the contest, and he was hard, he was tough, he won his own ball, he was quick with it, he knew where to be. Still, obviously, things to learn. He wasn't perfect by any stretch, but he looks like a real find. And you'd imagine that he's going to get some more opportunities this year. My question is, with the potential inclusion of a guy like Crouch, and then the potential to have guys like Clark and Caulfield potentially spend more time in the middle, and Brad Hill, obviously, with more of the ball in his hands, like we've spoken about, what that opportunity for Jack Bytel and Ryan Burns looks like. You imagine that there is going to be some opportunity, but what that looks like and when and how, do those guys have to add another string to their bow to force their way into the team, or are they going to try and beat out guys like Seb Ross, Luke Dunstan if he hangs around, Crouch and Steele? What does that look like?
I'd really like to see Bytel get more game time next year. He's got the big body. He's got that real want of the ball.
There's a bit of Paddy Cripps about him.
Yeah, he showed that against Geelong, that they've got a big bodied midfield, but he threw himself in there and got a number of times. It's just more game time in some of these players. We don't want to be looking back in a few years from now going, well, we lost him because he didn't play. So it's something that we need to kind of just slowly work in and give that bit of extra time to these few players, just to say, look, you've got a few weeks here, make it count. Show us why we shouldn't drop you. So it's just a few players there that you go, they could be something really special, but we need them out there to actually see it.
Yeah, we do. Absolutely. Now, as we mentioned earlier, a good opportunity for you to pick up some prizes. You've noticed that we've moved our podcast channel. We're now on Captivate under Sportscaster Media. If you head to unpluggered.captivate.fm and scroll down to the bottom of the page, join the mailing list, and you can go into the draw to win a copy of the Saints 140-year history book by Russell Holmesby. Strength Through Loyalty, Saints at Moorabbin and beyond. And make sure you follow us on all of the socials, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and the winners will be drawn via those platforms on Saturday, the 14th of November. Boys, it's been a long and arduous season, a season that finished in mid-October, and our review show is in early November. Hopefully we chat again in coming weeks, but good to be joined by Aaron Hamill, and thanks, guys, and stay safe during this off-season as we ease towards the end of lockdown.
As we ease back out into the general population.
Start interacting with people again. Thanks, guys, and go Saints.